Ryan was busy every single day of his life. This was the thing he told himself. This was the story he lived inside of. He woke up and immediately checked his phone. Emails first, then the news, then Instagram. By the time his feet touched the floor, his mind was already in 17 places that had nothing to do with his actual life. He made coffee while listening to a podcast. He showered while mentally drafting a response to an email he had read in bed. He ate breakfast standing at the counter with his phone propped against the fruit bowl, watching a video about productivity hacks, which he found deeply satisfying in the way that reading about exercise is deeply satisfying to someone who has not been to the gym. He was busy before the day had officially started. At work, he had a system. 47 unread emails at any given moment, which he was always in the process of getting to. A to-do list that rolled over daily with the reliability of a tide. Items migrating from today to tomorrow with small, unkept promises attached to them. 4 browser tabs open at all times, 6 on a busy day. He attended every meeting he was invited to because declining felt like admitting something. He responded to Slack messages within minutes because being available felt like being valuable. He stayed late not because his work required it, but because leaving on time felt somehow like leaving early. He was, by every surface measure, one of the hardest working people in his office. By the end of each day, he was genuinely exhausted, and by the end of each week, when he tried to identify what he had actually moved forward, there was a gap between the exhaustion and the output that he could not account for. He had been busy, he was certain of this, but the project that mattered had not advanced. The proposal he needed to write had not been written. The thing he had been meaning to do for 3 months was still at the same stage it had been at 3 months ago. He was 34 years old, and he had the feeling, arriving with increasing regularity in the quiet moments between busy ones, that he was running very fast on a treadmill. Enormous effort, no ground covered. He mentioned this once, offhandedly, to his colleague Maya, who was the kind of person who got things done in a way that looked almost unreasonably easy from the outside. Maya worked fewer visible hours than Ryan. She did not stay late. She was not always the first to respond on Slack. She took a full lunch break away from her desk every single day, which Ryan found almost suspicious. And yet her work had a quality and a completeness that his consistently lacked. He said to her, over lunch, that he could not figure out how she managed it. She looked at him for a moment. Then she said, "How many hours this week did you do just one thing?" Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, "one thing, not one thing while also checking email. Not one thing with music on and Slack open and your phone face up on the desk. One thing, completely, with nothing else competing for your attention." Ryan thought about it. He could not identify a single hour that week that fit that description. Maya nodded as if this answered something. "The mind is not a multitasker," she said. "It feels like one. It performs like one, but it isn't. Every time you switch between tasks, there is a cost, a residue. Part of your brain is still on the previous thing when you move to the next one. So you are never fully anywhere." She went back to her lunch. Ryan sat with this. He had heard something like this before. He had listened to podcasts about focus and read articles about deep work, and he understood the concept intellectually in the way that people understand concepts they have not yet applied to their actual behavior. But hearing it in the context of his own specific week landed differently. He had not been fully anywhere that week. He had been partially everywhere, and partially everywhere he was beginning to understand was the same as fully nowhere. That evening he went home and did something he had not done in a long time. He sat down at his desk with no phone, no music, no open tabs except one, and he worked on the proposal for 90 minutes without stopping. Not because it was easy. The first 20 minutes were uncomfortable in a way he had not anticipated. His hands kept reaching for his phone that was not there. His eyes kept moving toward the browser tab he had not opened. The silence had a quality of pressure that he was not accustomed to. But somewhere around the 25-minute mark, something shifted. He stopped reaching for things that weren't there. He went deeper into the proposal than he had gone in 3 months of working on it in pieces. Ideas arrived that had not arrived before, not because he had suddenly gotten smarter, because he had given his brain the uninterrupted space to find them. At the 90-minute mark, he stopped. He looked at what he had produced. It was more than he had produced in the previous 2 weeks combined. He sat there for a moment. Then he thought about something he had read once, from ancient India, the story of Arjuna at his archery training. His teacher had set up a wooden fish on a pole, high above the ground, and asked each student to take aim. But before each student could shoot, the teacher asked, "What do you see?" One student said, "I see the fish, the pole, the trees behind it, the sky." Another said, "I see the practice field, my fellow students, the fish." One by one, each student described everything in their field of vision. The teacher sent each of them away without allowing them to shoot. Then Arjuna took his position. "What do you see?" the teacher asked. "Only the eye of the fish," Arjuna said. "Nothing else." Only then did the teacher nod. Only then was the arrow released. Ryan had always understood this story as being about skill, about the superior archer seeing only the target, sitting at his desk that evening with the proposal open and 90 minutes of uninterrupted work behind him. He understood it differently. It was not about what Arjuna could see. It was about what he had chosen not to see. Every other student had technically seen the fish. The target was visible to all of them, but it was surrounded, in their awareness, by everything else. The pole, the trees, the sky, their fellow students, the totality of the environment competing for their attention. Arjuna had not blocked these things out through superhuman concentration. He had simply decided, before he raised the bow, that nothing else existed. The decision came first. The focus followed. Ryan had spent 3 months working on the proposal while also seeing the pole, the trees, the sky, the 47 emails, the Slack notifications, the podcast in his ears, the phone face up on the desk. He had been aiming at a target surrounded by everything else he was also looking at. No wonder the arrow had never landed. He did not become a different person overnight. The emails still came. The Slack still pinged. The instinct to multitask was years old, and it did not dissolve in a single evening. But he started making one small change. Every morning, before anything else, before email, before Slack, before the news or Instagram or the podcast, he took the first 90 minutes of his day and he gave them to one thing. Not a small thing, the most important thing. The thing that had been living on the to-do list, rolling over daily, waiting for a moment of full attention that never came. He put his phone in a drawer, not face down, in the drawer. He closed every tab except one. He worked. The first week was uncomfortable in the way of any new discipline. His mind staged a kind of protest, offering him reasons why he should just check one thing quickly, just respond to this one message, just take a 2-minute break that became 15. He noticed these offers. He did not take them. He kept coming back to the one thing. By the end of the first week, he had advanced the proposal further than he had in the previous month. By the end of the second week, his manager stopped him in the hallway and said, "I don't know what you've changed, but your work recently has had a different quality. More complete, more thought through." Ryan thought about Arjuna, about the eye of the fish, about the decision that comes before the focus, not after. He thought about Maya at her lunch break, away from her desk, not scrolling, not catching up, just having lunch. He had thought this looked like not working. He understood now that it was part of how she worked. The brain that is never given rest becomes the browser with 47 tabs open. Slower on everything, fully present for nothing. He started taking a real lunch break. He felt guilty about it for the first 3 days. On the 4th day, he came back from lunch and worked for 2 hours with the kind of focus that used to take him an entire exhausted evening to produce. Here is what Ryan learned, slowly, in the weeks that followed. Being busy is not the same as making progress. Motion is not the same as direction. A man can run for 8 hours on a treadmill and end the day exactly where he started, exhausted, certain he has worked hard, wondering why nothing has moved. The treadmill feels like running. It is not running. The question is not how many hours you gave today. The question is how many of those hours had the eye of the fish in them. How many of them were fully somewhere rather than partially everywhere? How many of them had the phone in the drawer? Because the proposal does not get written between notifications. The thing that matters does not get done in the spaces between everything else. It gets done when you decide that for this hour, this 1 hour, nothing else exists. Only the eye, only the arrow, only this. Ryan still had 47 emails most mornings, but he stopped letting them be the first thing he saw. The first thing he saw now was the one thing. Everything else waited, and everything else, he discovered, was perfectly capable of waiting. It had just never been asked to before.